As Putin invaded Ukraine, China threw its full weight behind him, offering not just financial support, but an array of non-lethal equipment including drones, night vision goggles, scopes, helmets, and military uniforms. In less than a month, the United States uncovered China's clandestine support for Russia. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned that any aid to Russia would have severe consequences. Subsequently, U.S. officials disclosed through mainstream media channels that Russia also demanded weapons and ammunition from China. Reports suggest that China's military exports to Russia include raw materials for weapon propellants, covering a range of firearms from both the United States and China, as well as other weapons such as the Kalashnikov rifle, SVD sniper rifle, automatic grenade launchers, and KPV heavy machine guns. This underscores the significant role of Chinese enterprises in supporting Russian military activities. Some geopolitical observers even speculate that Moscow and Beijing have secretly formed a military alliance. If Russian forces find themselves in trouble, China must provide assistance and vice versa. Russia leverages nuclear submarines and warheads as bargaining chips, while China offers manpower and conventional weapon support. While Sullivan's warning deterred direct provision of heavy weaponry from China to Russia, the support provided by China is more insidious, including gunpowder, electro-optical systems, and advanced technologies stolen from America. It's doubtful the Russian military could sustain operations without this assistance. According to Ukrainian estimates, by the end of 2022, Russia's missile inventory was reduced to less than 30% of its original amount. Yet Russian forces continue to maintain high-intensity strikes on major Ukrainian cities, with battlefield ammunition consumption reportedly reaching up to 10 times that of Ukraine's. Recently, Russian forces have even begun using glide bombs weighing up to 3 tons. Such intense firepower output undoubtedly necessitates a substantial supply of ammunition and its raw materials. Facing severe Western sanctions, how does Russia procure the crucial materials needed to manufacture ammunition? According to data from Britain's Royal United Services Institute, from March 2022 to the end of 2023, Russia imported $160 million worth of nitrocellulose from China, accounting for 80% of its total nitrocellulose imports. Nitrocellulose is a primary component in gunpowder, typically constituting over 80% of the powder's formula. Prior to the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia primarily sourced its nitrocellulose from European countries such as Germany, the Netherlands, and Italy. Nitrocellulose, also known as gun cotton, is produced by reacting short staple cotton or wood pulp with nitric acid. Nitrocellulose with a nitric acid group content exceeding 13% is an explosive and can be directly used to manufacture explosives, while nitrocellulose with a nitric acid group content below 11% is highly malleable and can be used to produce plastics. Nitrocellulose with a content between these ranges can be used to manufacture smokeless gunpowder. The authoritative report from Britain essentially confirms the long-standing speculation about China's military assistance to Russia. Chinese-American YouTuber Lu De revealed that following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the first contract approved under the Central Military Commission was to sell gunpowder to Russia through a third party with nitrocellulose content exceeding 80%. These supplies include propellants required for various caliber ammunition, such as those needed for 9x18mm handgun rounds and 7.26x54mm machine gun rounds. Just for these two types of propellants, the order amount exceeded 10 million RMB. Samples were delivered in June 2022, with the remaining goods all shipped to Russia before May 2023. To evade U.S. sanctions, the CCP opted not to involve well-known defense industry enterprises in military exports, but turned to more discrete chemical companies. These companies are mainly located in China's central and western regions, such as Sichuan, Hunan, and Hubei. In China, manufacturing and exporting dangerous chemicals such as explosives, especially military gunpowder, is a strictly regulated activity. They are typically undertaken by state-controlled enterprises, and any decision to export to foreign countries requires formal approval from the Central Military Commission's Military Trade Export Office. This implies that exporting military gunpowder to Russia is not a commercial endeavor, but a state-sanctioned action. According to a contract approved by the Military Trade Office in November 2022, China decided to export 20 tons of specific types of propellants to Russia, with a transaction value exceeding $2 million. Since March 2022, the total value of Russia's nitrocellulose imports from China has reached 160 million US dollars. Based on this figure, we can roughly estimate the scale of military supplies Russia obtains from China. Assuming all this nitrocellulose is used to produce propellants for 155mm shells, $160 million worth of nitrocellulose could produce at least 1.6 billion 155mm shells, and assuming a firing rate of 100,000 shells per day, Russia could sustain its artillery firepower for 4 to 5 years solely based on nitrocellulose imported from China. The contract specifically emphasizes confidentiality measures to ensure the security of related information storage, processing, and transmission. Information must be transmitted through at least 3-level protected encrypted networks. Additionally, strict regulations are imposed on the transportation details of sensitive items such as nitrocellulose, including specific writing formats for transportation labels, managing markings, and production dates, to prevent interception by the United States during transit. From the approval of contracts by the Central Military Commission to the formulation of stringent confidentiality and transportation plans, these measures reflect China's deliberate and active support of Russia's military. On June 23rd of last year, the New York Times reported that U.S. trade data aggregator Import Genius found that China's Poly Technologies Group had shipped a large amount of gunpowder to Russia's Bernal ammunition plant, weighing tens of thousands of kilograms, sufficient to manufacture hundreds of millions of bullets, with a transaction value of close to $2 million. The use of bombs made from Chinese explosives on the battlefield is bound to result in dud shells, some of which may even be seized by Ukraine. Once these shells are recovered and examined, their explosive components and formulations could expose their Chinese origin, as the formulations of ammunition from different countries vary. Despite China's proactive assistance to Russia in supplying explosives, China's own explosives production faces some challenges. Safety incidents are frequent in the process of configuring pyrotechnic agents, and explosions in chemical plants occur almost daily. In order to enhance safety, China has begun to adopt powder inerting technology from advanced countries like the United States. This technology can significantly improve the stability of explosives and reduce the risk of accidental explosions during mixing, transportation, and storage. However, in the final stage, detonators must be added to the shells to ensure firepower. Reports from Luda Media indicate that although China has mastered power inerting technology, there are still some problems in the formulation and preparation process of detonators and primers. Once, a factory over-inerted the explosives, and after adding detonators, bullets and shells could not be fired properly. Whether this problem will occur in the aid provided to Russia is currently unknown. Meanwhile, the CCP is also providing significant support to Russia in cutting-edge technologies, such as laser technology and electronic chips. The support goes beyond simple technology exports and includes assisting Russia in enhancing military infrastructure. On March 25, 2023, the U.S. government imposed sanctions on Wuhan Xiaorui Intelligent Technology Company. This company, established with Chinese state support since its founding in 2010, has cooperated with Russian military institutions, especially in the field of laser technology. Xiaorui's Russian partners include top institutions in the field, such as the Euro-Laser Innovation Center. Russia is up to standard in some technology aspects, such as using advanced one-time welding processes in the construction of Typhoon-class nuclear submarines, but overall it still lags behind the United States. However, since 2012, with the help of Xiaorui, Russia has been gradually narrowing its technological gap with the United States in this field. The technologies provided by Xiaorui to Russia include high-power lasers, processing technologies, equipment, and system integration, which are widely used in the manufacture of satellites, rockets, missiles, aircraft carriers, fighter jets, and even hypersonic aircraft. This is how Xiaorui and Russia work together. Once Xiaorui identifies urgent technological needs in Russian projects, it infiltrates the intranets of relevant U.S. technology companies to steal information. Its targets span all aspects of the U.S. military-industrial complex, from defense contractors manufacturing flight simulators to top enterprises engaged in aerospace equipment research and defense research in Tennessee and Alabama. The stolen technology is quickly transferred to Russia for the development of new weapons, as well as applied in fields such as precision instrument cutting, chip manufacturing, and missile guidance. The fact that the United States has sanctioned Xiaorui demonstrates the breadth and severity of its illegal activities. Through such covert, yet highly impactful technological diplomatic means, China has substantially strengthened Russia's military-industrial complex. The cooperation between Xiaorui and Russia evidently receives robust support from the Chinese leadership. The U.S. government has obtained irrefutable evidence proving that China is intensifying its support for Russia's military actions. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen have issued stern warnings to China, accusing it of fueling Russia's aggression against Ukraine and threatening global security and stability. The U.S. emphasizes that Chinese companies and banks providing military and dual-use materials to Russia will face severe sanctions, including being expelled from the dollar settlement system. This includes that the U.S. is prepared to publicly reveal evidence of China's support for Russia. On April 8th, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arrived in Beijing just before Yellen's departure from China, delivering a strong signal to China. The strategic cooperation between China and Russia tolerates no interference or disruption from any third party. If China shows any signs of betraying Russia under U.S. pressure, Russia will not show mercy. In response to Russia's warning, the Chinese government quickly reiterated the rock-solid nature of the China-Russia relationship. Both sides held close communication in Beijing, demonstrating to the United States their dedication to the pact. The United States and its European allies have realized that the current relationship between China and Russia is far more intimate than that between China and the United States. While President Xi Jinping still expresses friendliness towards the United States, in reality, his personal relationship with President Putin appears to be much closer. Given the Ukraine crisis, the de facto military-political alliance between China and Russia has become a certainty. The United States and Europe are comprehensively adjusting their strategies towards China, and the trilateral relationship between China, the United States, and Russia is undergoing subtle and profound changes. However, China's economy is still unable to completely break free from its dependence on Western trade and the financial system in the short term. Without cooperation from the US and Europe, China's economic development will be difficult to sustain. Yet China's betrayal of the United States has made it increasingly difficult for the US to provide even minimal trust, and the possibility of a comprehensive repair of Sino-US relations is slim. Moreover, Russia, as China's quasi-military partner, will never allow substantial improvement in Sino-US relations. In this context, Xi Jinping faces a daunting choice. The United States has issued an ultimatum. If China continues to support Russia, it will face comprehensive sanctions, with Chinese banks potentially being expelled from the dollar settlement system, which would spell disaster for the Chinese economy. The renminbi exchange rate would plummet, capital would flee, the stock market would collapse, and the economy would surely suffer. On the other hand, Russia, like a loan shark, is squeezing China. Putin dispatched his confidant Lavrov to China in haste, pressuring Xi Jinping for an immediate response without giving China any negotiation time. Xi Jinping is well aware that the consequences of antagonizing Russia are equally unthinkable. Faced with unprecedented pressure, Xi Jinping can only maneuver between the two sides. He initially let Foreign Minister Wang Yi handle Lavrov, but the response was no different from before, clearly just a stalling tactic. And when Xi Jinping met Lavrov at the Great Hall of the People, he appeared more businesslike than in the past, seemingly hinting at an attempt to create some distance. But Xi Jinping knows in his heart that Russia is ready to strike at China at any moment, and while the United States is powerful, it will still take time to truly harm China. Therefore, he must prioritize stabilizing Russia while simultaneously making every effort to delay U.S. sanctions. This requires maneuvering between Washington's think tanks and politicians, mobilizing relationships in the U.S., and seeking breathing room. He has instructed Premier Li Qiang and Vice Premier He Lifeng to hold emergency meetings overnight, devising strategies and finding ways to appease the United States. This is a war without gunfire, and Xi Jinping is struggling to maintain a difficult balance. This is a gamble he cannot avoid. Meanwhile, Western sanctions against the CCP have begun, with the blows coming one after another. On February 22nd, the UK took the lead in imposing sanctions on CCP enterprises that provided military aid to Russia. The sanctioned companies include Shenzhen Zhuhang Technology, which provides controlled electronic products to Russia, and Beijing Microplot Unmanned Aircraft Control Systems Company Limited, which produces engines used in Russian military drones. This move by the UK marks the beginning of Western sanctions against the CCP, and it's only a matter of time before more countries follow suit. The EU and Israel have also included the CCP on their sanction lists. The CCP's infiltration in the UK and the EU is serious and extensive. It seems the UK is determined to sanction the CCP. Additionally, the United States has repeatedly warned Iran not to provide ballistic missiles to Russia. This move by the United States is significant because it knows that Iran, which has been under sanctions for many years, does not have the capability to produce ballistic missiles. The Five Eyes alliance certainly knows where the core components of these military equipment come from, essentially warning the CCP. For the United States, issuing warnings is a necessary process. If the CCP directly supports Russia, the United States will take direct action against the CCP. If the CCP supports Russia through Iran, the United States can take the opportunity to deal with both Iran and the CCP. Currently, both Iran and Russia have admitted that the support came from Iran, which means that the United States will take action against Iran first, and then investigate who provided the relevant technology and components to Iran. On April 24, 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Iran used cargo planes to transport 300,000 rounds of ammunition to Russia, which raised suspicions in the United States. The U.S. doubted whether Iran really had the capability to provide such a large amount of ammunition. The key raw materials needed for these rounds, especially copper, are likely to come from other countries. Data shows that in 2022, Iran's copper production was only 615,000 tons, while China's production was as high as 21,235,000 tons during the same period, with a huge gap between the two. If Iran's own copper production is not sufficient, how could it export large quantities of ammunition? The mention of Iran providing ammunition to Russia is a warning to China. The United States seems to be implying that once U.S.-China relations deteriorate to a critical point, the U.S. will not hesitate to impose sanctions or even military strikes against China. This reflects the trend of U.S. policy towards the CCP, shifting from pressure to containment. The United States' usual approach to handling international disputes is to start with sanctions, escalate gradually, and eventually resort to military means. Reuters-related reports are actually a warning to China. At the same time, the United States is strengthening Western military alliances through the AUKUS mechanism, optimizing military deployments in the Indo-Pacific region to create a greater strategic containment against China. AUKUS, established by Australia, the UK, and the US on September 15, 2021, is a military, diplomatic, and security partnership. The primary goal of this alliance is for the UK and US to assist Australia in building a fleet of nuclear-powered submarines. It is also part of the US's new Indo-Pacific Strategy Alliance cooperation. The alliance will also cooperate in frontier areas such as cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, quantum technology, underwater warfare, unmanned weapons, hypersonic technology, electronic warfare, and intelligence sharing. These areas represent the high ground of future military competition and will have far-reaching implications for global military balance. Canada has announced that it is considering joining AUKUS, and the US, UK, and Australia have also indicated that they will consider admitting Japan into the second pillar of AUKUS. Once Japan joins, it means that the US-led small group circling China in the Asia-Pacific region will expand, increasing the risk of regional military confrontation. For China, AUKUS is undoubtedly a heavy blow. It signifies increased efforts by other countries to contain China in high-end technology fields. If China cannot break through key technological blockades and achieve independent and controllable core technologies soon, the gap between China and the West may widen further in the next 5 to 10 years, placing China in a more passive position in international competition.